Daisy, hello.
Hello.
How are you?
Yeah, I'm great. Problems.
What's the matter? Are you having
Oh,
all the technical issues today?
all right, alrighty. I feel like I'm echoing. Am I? See, I already started with the
Your
volume.
volume's down a little bit. I don't hear you very well.
Okay. All right. Well, let's keep talking.
Okay, let's keep talking. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing well.
Yeah,
It's getting
yay.
pretty hot here in Las Vegas.
Well,
So
why
over,
is this summer different than any other summer?
well, it's actually a little bit cooler than last summer. And it's quite summer yet, by the way. Officially, it's not till June.
Officially, you're right. Officially, you're right. That's true. That's true. Well, I want to say welcome to the Glass House. This is really exciting. We are in week 19 of the Glass House, episode 19, which is really incredible. And I want to thank all of you for being here. We're going to do a little more catch up, Daisy and I, because it's fun. But with the Glass House is where we look at business from the inside and the outside to expose the gap between what's embedded and what's actually embodied. You're going to hear that word a lot. I am Shera Haliczer, founder and chief momentum officer of Engage 3P.
And I am Daisy Watkins, founder of BW Concepts and LumaPath.ai. I always have to say in business today, if AI doesn't see it today, it don't exist.
That never gets old. I just love that all the time. I say this every single week. If you are here today, thank you. We know you have loads of options, and we really appreciate that you choose us. We don't take that lightly. If you're missing it and you're catching us on the repeat, that's great. And you can find us on YouTube, LinkedIn, and my website, engage3p.com. You can find all the episodes there if you want to go back and watch all of them. We would love to know what you think about them. And we really love your comments throughout the episode. So drop your questions, share your comments. I wish we could make this more of a conversation and not just us talking to you and not just a broadcast, but let us know what you're thinking, because it's how we keep this going. And we're going to read your comments and talk to you. And it looks like, because I can't see it quite yet, that Heather is already here, who we love, who was on last time. And I can't see the other ones yet, but I can't wait. I'll see them in just a moment. Today, we are pulling back the curtain on something most leaders have never thought to check. And we've talked about this kind of in circles, but we really want to get into it. Your business already has an AI reputation score. It's live right now. Buyers are seeing it. Prospective employees are seeing it. And the question is not whether it exists. It does. The question is whether you know what it says.
Very good, Shira. So our guest today actually built the tool that shows you he is a strategic and also a strategic partner of mine. And the reason this episode matters is that what he measures and what I fix are two sides of the same problem. Okay, so so there's a couple of things that we're going to look at here, and then obviously on the inside as well. So Mario is hang on, sorry, I am so sorry, guys.
While you're looking for that, I'm gonna say hello, Nicole. Hello, Heather. Alan, can you not hear me? Are we having problems hearing? Alan Marks, by the way, I'm going to say this out loud, is the oldest friend I have on the planet. We've been friends since I was born. I technically like to say that he was my very first boyfriend. I have a picture. We were like 2.
You were 2 years
I can
old.
share the picture. Alan, can I share the picture? So yeah. Okay, good. No echo. Fantastic. I'm glad it's a beautiful day in New York for Heather. That's fantastic. Are you back on track now, my friend?
Yeah, I'm back on track now. We are here with Mario Adoc. Mario is a co-founder of a company called Halogen. And Halogen is an AI visibility tool that actually is going to look at your company, your brand, and it will measure a few things in that tool. So I'm not going to go deep into what the tool actually does. I'll let Mario speak to that. But ultimately, what businesses need to know, and I'm going to guarantee you about 90% of folks out there probably not know that this is important right now. Google just made a big announcement that SEO is pretty much done, and why the tool and AEO and AI visibility in general matters now. So Mario, welcome to the Glass House.
Thank you all. Yeah, good to meet you all. Shera.
A little bit of a delay there.
Shera, thank you for having me. Daisy, thank you
Sure.
for having me. You all have such a lively intro that I feel like I need to bring out the lively self to just match your energy.
Sounds good. Sounds good. We like that. Well, Daisy, I think you have the first question for Mario because I know this is right in your sweet spot. So
No worries at all. So Mario, let's start with really what is AI visibility from your perspective, and then we can go from there. So I guess number one, my first question to you is, what made you get into this space?
Yeah, good question. I look back at around October of last year. I'd started my company. My co-founder and I, we had explored a few ideas. But a friend of mine in the AI space, and a friend of mine shared with me this podcast by a professional named Ethan Smith. And this podcast was titled "The Ultimate Guide to AEO." Right? It's such an epic name. And I watched it. Really dense content, highly technical, but it really intrigued me, and it really got me wanting to learn more about this field. And the more and more I learned about this field, the more and more I found that just professionals and business owners did not even know that this existed. It's quite an emerging category. It's quite a greenfield space, and that excites me. It excites me because it gives me this opportunity to truly be a pioneer in this space.
Okay. And so what, as you learned about it more, I mean, you've spent 18 years with Amazon, so tell us a little bit about that. I'm always very curious about people that work for the big corporations and what your background is there. And so while you were inside, you were inside one of the most sophisticated technology organizations in the world. So, from there, give us a little bit of experience with Amazon, projects you worked on, and what made you leave to build Halogen. Really, kind of, you watched the video, and then how did you just start sitting there and going, let me start building or research it?
Yeah, good question. Yes, so like you said, I was at Amazon for nearly 18 years on the software engineering side. So I started there as a sort of bottom of the totem pole software engineer. And over the years, I worked hard. I worked my way up the ranks. And by the time I left as a senior engineering manager, right, where I had this organization of around 25 engineers. But in my last few years at the company, I could tell that I was just losing that spark. I started to feel complacent with my work, and I knew that, deep down inside, I wanted to just build something that I could call my own. And I wanted to do that while I was still relatively young. I'm in my mid 40s. And so, yeah, that was really my motivating factor, right, is to just take this risk, jump at the deep end, and build something that I could call my own. And it wasn't until the emergence of AI and just really experiencing AI myself that this is, not only transformative but also here to stay. That I decided to take that leap and leave, what I felt was a great opportunity at Amazon.
Okay. Now, as you watch that video and you go, like, this is a space I want to get into, I think I can build something around this. What did you see happening, and how did you, I think part of the conversation was you were doing different business owners that fall around it. So let's talk about that a little bit. What kind of emerged from that?
Yeah. Just thinking about that period, right? Just very early on in the October-November timeframe. Like I said, I was very fascinated by the subject, to the point that I started reaching out to, friends of mine, colleagues who are deep in the AI space, right? Who are, keep up to date with the cutting edge of AI, and marketers as well. I've one friend who runs a marketing agency that I asked them what they know about AI search, asked them what they know about AI visibility, and it was a consensus. No, like this is something that they weren't even aware of. And if these professionals weren't even aware of this, then this is, how can I expect the average business owner or a mom and pop shop to even know about this as well? Right? So I thought this was an opportunity to really do something about it.
So Daisy, we've talked about this a
Yeah.
lot, right? Like the idea of how are we seen in the world today, right? And we've talked about this, Mario, quite a bit. There's what we used to do, right? We used to Google before, I guess, after phone books. I was watching something recently. I think it was something on TV, and somebody said, "Do you know what a phone book is?" Oh, yeah, it was the Valley. I love Bravo. I'm sorry. One of the characters said to a 27-year-old, "Do you know what a phone book is?" Okay. Anyway, I digress. So, we would Google something, right? We would go to Yelp if we wanted to look up restaurants, right? I did an enormous amount of traveling for over 10 years. And every city we went to, we'd go to the Yelp app and we'd look for restaurants, right? And we'd Google it and try to find something. And everyone knew about SEO. Everyone knew, anyone who ever started a business. I remember 20 odd years ago having to pay Google or pay a service to get my name at the top of the list. And how do I, fight that algorithm? If that's, I don't think I called it that then. But Daisy, you introduced me to this understanding of AEO, which I haven't even told you this yet. And I meant to show you this earlier and I didn't, but I work with HubSpot as my CRM. And they just came out with AEO as part of now in the CRM. It just appeared within the last week or so, right? And I think also for my my website, it's now kind of embedded as part of that. So then we move to this whole AI thing, right? With ChatGPT and whatever tools we're all using to now ask the question, what's the best restaurant? And I've been doing stuff for the last couple of days. Like I'll immediately in Google go to AI mode instead of just doing the search bar. And we all heard, Daisy, you brought it up a couple of weeks ago, that Google just announced that the search bar is ostensibly going away, that we're going to be looking at things differently. So we've talked about, and we really are curious about, what does a business owner like us, small or big, it doesn't really matter. How do we make sure we're a player in this world? Because all of that data is now out there. What does that mean? And I think for those who have not heard it before, I think it's important to say, what exactly is AEO? I want to take a step back for a second. What does it really mean? How is it different than showing up on a Google list or what are the other things like Safari and blah, blah, blah? Or what does that really mean? Because I think that's important for people to understand. It's different. It's very, very different.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I'm going to let Mario talk a little bit more about this because this is a space he actually built so that it actually looks at the websites, right, and gives a score for the visibility. So really, really backwards. So AI visibility is the main terminology for this, right? It's how are you, and when we mean AI, meaning the LLMs, the tools that are used to do the searches or the prompts to find an answer, right? And so AEO is an acronym for Answer Engine Optimization, which means, are you the answer to the engine, right, for a question or a prompt? So it's no longer, so in the SEO world, you're an option, you're a choice. So I'll let Mario dig deep into how that translates into AI visibility work. So those are two distinctions. Then there's also words that are called GEO, AIO, LLM, IIO, those types of stuff. At the end of the day, it's about AI visibility. Whatever term you use, GEO is a subset of AEO, but people think that that's the only thing to do. But they also associate that with just Google itself for the AI mode, but now the AI mode is totally gone. I mean, it's not gone from the browser. So Mario, explain to us kind of, how this your visibility tool makes a difference now that people are talking about it versus to how it was before on a Google browser, not just a Google browser, but all the browsers that are out there.
Can I, before you say
Yeah.
anything, I want to ask our audience, how many of you have gone to an LLM, Chat, Claude, Perplexity, blah, 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 blah. How many of you gone to one and asked about yourself and your business, whether it's your business or the company you work for? I'd love to know if you're willing to put it in the chat. And if you haven't, maybe do it now. I don't know. But okay, I just want to find out.
Yeah, on that note, personally, I don't like Googling myself, but in working with Daisy, over the past few months, we went through this exercise where we did that together. We entered Halogen into a variety of AI platforms. We entered my name, and it was quite the interesting exercise. There's a whole other story for that. Maybe if we have time later on, right, Daisy? Yeah. So your question is, going back to your question, Daisy, like what is my perspective of AI visibility? Is that right?
Yeah. AI visibility.
Yeah.
What's so different now?
Yeah. The way I like to think about this, the way I describe this to people is that I liken it to like an old school library. If you all remember those days where you enter, where the internet is the library, right? And you enter a library. The traditional Google way is you ask the librarian, and the librarian helps you find a book, right? Whereas now with AI in the picture, that librarian has read every single book in the library, right? And so if you're looking for something, you're not just looking for the book, you're asking the librarian who, because they've read the entire library, like they have the answer, right? So that to me is like a good way that I think about the clearest way I can explain it, right, with this analogy for those of us who are like actually familiar with libraries. But going a little bit more technical than that, right? When it comes to AI visibility, what's important is tracking the exact questions that your customers are entering into ChatGPT, and then checking if your brand or your business appears. Okay, it's as simple as that. And so, like, really understanding your customers is basically step one, right? Understand who your customers are, which platforms they use, and how they're using them to find you. Okay, and there's there's an art and a science to that, and I'm sure Daisy has perspective on how to do that. But it's really about tracking how customers find you. Beyond that, it's also checking what LLMs or what these AI platforms have to say about you. Is it accurate? Because we've all heard the term about how AI it hallucinates, right? It could sometimes make mistakes or just even make stuff up. And so that's something else that is important when it comes to AI visibility, is ensuring that you don't just show up, but when you do show up, is it accurate? Is AI painting the right picture about your brand? Yeah, I'll go ahead and pause there. Do you have anything? Yeah.
I think that's amazing. I think, you guys are looking at it from the outside in, right? Which is perfect, right? And I look at it from the inside out. And from the inside out, what I see from that perspective, and I've done it, right? I've done it on me, I've done it on my business, and I did it. I had a situation, I think I told this story a couple of weeks ago. I'm working with a new client, and I was pitching what I wanted to do, bringing my services to their organization. And I was on the phone with the managing principal, and he said, and I'd sent him all sorts of information, whatever, and obviously links to my white pages and just everything about what I do. And we got on a call, and he said, I love what you're doing. And I said, I did want to run it past some of my employees. So I've got these 3 new employees. And I went, you did? And he goes, yeah, Perplexity, Claude, and Chat. And my heart sank. Like, I think he could hear my heart. He goes, let me tell you what what Perplexity said when I asked, do I want to work with Engage 3P? And I swear, I think the microphone was picking up the pounding of my heart as he was going to read this to me, because he's about to tell me whether or not he's going to make a decision about hiring me based on what Perplexity told him. Thank God I did the work with Daisy that months and months and months ago that I needed to do. And she was my first phone call. I'm like, oh my God, you're not going to believe this. And I have the Perplexity output, because it not only said, this is fantastic, this is what you need for your business, and there's more. It went on to say more of what I could do to help their business and da, 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 da. So it was the greatest thing that ever happened to me. But that's because I've done the work, right? I'm constantly looking at, what is it saying? What systems am I in? How am I putting this information in? Ensuring that, so it's real, folks. Like I know firsthand, and thank God I have this fun, great, amazing story to tell. But yeah, I mean, Mario, it's no joke, right? And I don't even work in Perplexity at all. I don't do any work in Perplexity. I don't use it. So
yeah, to your point, Shera, these are now employees, and people that are using AI at this level, right, are assigning them as their employees, and they're relying on them to provide them the answers to make decisions to buy. Not only is that done in that particular format of, as far as a search, a direct search, tell me about Engage 3P, tell me about Shera Haliczer, you know what I mean? Those are, it's almost in the SEO or browser world, those are what we call keyword searches, right? And so to Mario's point, the librarian tells you, these are all the books about, this particular topic. Pick one you want, and you get to pick one through the blue links. And then why Mario's tool digs deeper is, like he said, they've given you all the links to pick one, but this time you're not having to pick one. It picks it for you when you are the answer, right?
So,
and the choices are limited.
So I'm going to throw this up here, and sorry if I'm jumping all over the place here, but Heather asked, I think, the most pertinent question, do we even want to get to this now, is how do you fix the mistake or fix what's inaccurate? What do you do when it's wrong?
Mario, you want to answer that question? And what
I think it's a great question. And I think we should all ask that, right? When we see something in AI that is just off, it just feels off. And my perspective on that is, I think it depends on the type of mistake or how you define mistake, right? Because there are types of mistakes that is as simple as, oh, they got my name wrong, or they got my address wrong. And that can be, in general, solved by just ensuring that wherever your brand has a presence, that it's consistent, and that there's no question that, on Yelp, on Google Business Profile, your LinkedIn, your own website, that it's all presented the same way. And to AI, it's crystal clear, like what your address is, and it's not going to hallucinate, right? So those types of mistakes. But then there are types of mistakes that are surfaced by a customer review, and maybe this customer is saying something negative about your brand that may or may not be true, right? So if it is true, then that's an opportunity to listen to your customers and address it. And maybe there's something core about your service or your product that needs to be addressed, right? But if that sentiment that's coming from that customer review is not true, then that's an opportunity to manage that sentiment, right? Either maybe you could respond to that customer review, right? You could do that sometimes in Yelp, for instance, or address it with a blog post, or address it with an FAQ, right? So that it's that negative sentiment is managed.
So this is, sorry, Daisy, go ahead.
Sorry, really quickly. So that addresses the quick fix on how AI would change that narrative, right? But in terms of Shera, as you hear Mario talk about it, right, it becomes also a very internal problem. So go ahead, Mario.
Well, that's it, right? So when we think about it in organizations, right? You said it, Mario, somebody put a bad review, right? Somebody writes on Glassdoor that the company is terrible, that the leadership is terrible. That information that's out there, that information that exists on Reddit, on Glassdoor, on blogs, on so many different places. So I did a blog post, for example, about I did a series of blog posts on leadership. And I didn't say the bad leadership. I didn't say who that was for this precise reason, right? I don't want to make something bad. And I did call out the really good one. It happened to be Marriott Corporation and the former CEO who passed away. And I called out his name and I called out the organization because what they did from a leadership perspective was so phenomenal. So I would have to assume that if I went out there to Perplexity or Claude or whatever and tried to search for that, it would come up because my blog post is published and I put it on LinkedIn and I think I even put it onto Medium. So what goes on inside an organization today is critical, both from an inside perspective, making sure that people are communicating what's accurate, but also understanding what are people saying about us. It's no longer, it's nothing. That's why we call it the glass house. Everything is visible now. We can't hide from any of this anymore. And I think for business owners and for people in general, I think it's really critical. And Alan just said, oh, you're having fun. Okay, Alan, this is going to be great. You have to let us know what all your direct reports come back and find. I think that's fantastic.
Awesome. So, so one of the things too is from that point. So Mario has actually a live story. So Mario, this is where you can tell your story about when we did the exercise about who you are and what you found, and you know.
Yeah, and this wasn't long ago, actually. This was maybe about a month ago, where Daisy and I were in, we're strategic partners, helping each other out here, and she had me go through this exercise of, one by one, ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, Perplexity. Let's enter in your name and see what pops up. And this is something I would never do on my own, but I'm glad that Daisy is holding my hand through this. And I think it was in Perplexity, if I remember correctly. We entered my name, and it gave the same sort of like boring description about my Amazon experience and my education and all that. But then on the side, we saw, here are all the websites that were cited to inform this response. And we look and we see, oh, what? Like, there's this just random link from the Alabama Department of Corrections. And we're like, Daisy, can you click into that? Like, why is this even showing up? And we read this article about how there was this this prison guard, and I think his name was Mario Vargas. Vargas is my middle name. And so this prison guard was caught smuggling in drugs into a prison in Alabama.
Wow.
And this, if you go back to the name of like the prison, it's like Alabama Department of Corrections. That's ADOC, which is my last name. And so that's why AI, it picked up on these like signals of like, oh, Mario Vargas, and then ADOC, and maybe in the article that it used that acronym, and then it associated that article with me as like, a human entity. And at first I was just like,
this is what Perplexity.
Yeah, and I was just initially shocked, but then eventually Daisy and I got a good laugh out of it, and we're like, this is like, people should hear the story. This is exactly why we're doing what we're doing.
Yeah.
I'm so glad I am the only Shera Haliczer that has ever existed on the planet. No one ever has done, sold. Oh my God, that's crazy.
A blog or a post around it too, actually.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I had to share that with my network.
And that it's not you.
Oh yeah,
No.
Not the Alabama.
In fact, I've never even been to Alabama. I swear.
Oh my God,
I'm
that's
not a prison guard.
crazy.
Yeah, and another layer to that when we did a search on one of the LLMs is that I'm frozen. I'm sorry. Because I didn't realize this. He's a junior, And so again, the cross identity between his dad was showing up. It showed Mario as the first part of the sentence, the paragraph really, on one of the LLMs, and the bottom part was talking about his dad. And
That too,
the
yeah.
it flagged me, and I jumped at it was because it noted the age, and I'm going, you're not X amount age. I said,
Yeah.
I know you're young. He goes, no, that's dad. And so immediately we had to pivot to what brand are you putting out there? What's your entity? That's what we call the entity. And because what's your middle name? We got to start using your middle name, because otherwise, if they just talk to you and you are Mario Adoc, right? And then they're going to search that. So now your middle name has now to be consistent, is where he's talking about consistency in your name, your address, and your phone number. And this is what we call in our world, NAP. Name, address, and phone number. People say, why does that matter? Well, to Mario's point earlier, they are bots, so they're trained to look at sets. They're trained to look at things consistently. Even if there's a dash and you put a dot between your numbers, it will say, let's say you're on 5 different digital footprints, right? And the AI goes, consistent. Oh, wait a minute. Number 3 is showing that it's a dash, or you used a wrong phone number, but the names and addresses were the same. So that can kind of maybe put you in a sandbox for now, and then scour everything else that's more consistent than you. So it depends on how many more they're comparing you to that's consistent versus what's not. That's my theory around it, Mario, right? As they're driving super highway, right? Okay, bucket. And then you'll see on certain LLMs, they bucket you as top and then alternatives or options. So they've kind of layered that a little bit different now, but within that is where it's the most critical part for customers is if you show up on that space, it's now very what we call agentic, meaning that the LLM has made a decision for you based on what it knows about your company. So it really filtered you as a top match for what the business does and the reason why you're looking for this company, because your LLM knows you, right? And then the next part to it is, now, are you the one that they're going to click to want to? Now you have 3 choices to make as a human being. If you're in the top 3, top 5, whatever the LLM is giving you. If you don't show up on the top parts, sometimes I show up on, I'm a boutique consulting versus an agency. Right. So then the category where you put your entity is important as well. What Mario's tool assesses as well. Are you showing up on the right category for your brand and your business? You're going to say, Shera.
But LLMs, AI ultimately though is pattern recognition, right? Correct. It's not actually, we talk about this all the time. There is no context. So in your story, it's going, okay, that phone number matches, that phone number matches. Oh, that's a little bit different, but it doesn't stop and go, but wait, let's realize that it's a dash and not a dot. So that's okay. Like there's no rational thinking going on. No. There's no, so it's still very black and white in terms of what it's doing and the decisions it's making, which is also, I think, what makes it more frightening, because those small changes can really have major impact. Since now we know that you are a drug dealing Alabama prison guard, then now we know.
Your foundation needs to be solid. Number 1, his tool will allow you to crawl in there and tell you about you. But what I do is the other layer of it is, once your entity is established, how do you get cited? And those are the layers that we peel. And Mario's going through that exercise right now. And that's what his tool does to help me also get my citations up. Even though I'm in this space, my score is not perfect. Mario runs my score too. Seriously.
Not perfect?
Higher than others? Absolutely. To where I need to be. I'm not going to score 100, number 1, okay? Right. Especially at this early stage. But am I visible and am I being cited? Absolutely. Am I cited enough times? Not yet. I still need a lot of work to do, but I am ahead of everybody else. And Mario's is going through this exercise for him as well. So it's constantly massaging it. it's going to get to a point where, are you going to be the recommended? That's what I work on. And through Mario's tool, it allows me to look at what prompts are being used to get there. So Mario, talk about your tool a little
Please.
bit here. You know, when you run something, what are they going to get, and what are the features it has that is important to your customer?
Yeah. I wish I could actually show my tool. I feel like a picture says 1,000 words, but in a nutshell, what we're doing is we give our users visibility into, how often your brand appears in AI search results. Right? And I think that matters because as a business owner, like the best way you could do that is to just actually like manually enter into ChatGPT and Gemini and do that one at a time, right? And maybe do it again next week to see if it changes. And that's quite the laborious exercise, right? So just being able to do that and manage that automatically, right, is one of the most important features, right? And then secondly, when it comes to AI visibility, it's about what authoritative sites mention you. Where do you have a presence in places like LinkedIn or Reddit or Yelp or your Google business profile, right? Trustpilot, right? These are highly authoritative sites that are cited very frequently by LLMs because that's how they establish trust. That's how they establish trust and authority for a given brand, right? So that's something else that my platform provides is it tells you, X% of time, your brand was cited by LinkedIn, or Y percentage of the time maybe you're not cited by Yelp, and this is an opportunity for you to have more of a presence on Yelp, right? As an example. Okay. The other thing that Halogen does is going back to the topic of sentiment, right? And actually quantifying that, right? It goes into what the AI platforms are saying about your brand, and it scores it. It assigns it a score for if it's a positive sentiment, a neutral, or a negative sentiment. And if it comes back as a score below 50%, for example, then that's something that you should probably dig into and understand why is it showing a negative sentiment for this specific area, right? So that's like the sort of visibility and monitoring side of the platform. Right? The other side of it, which I'm super excited about, is now that we can measure your visibility, what can we do about it? And so that's why I've been, this is something very recent over the past couple months now, really investing in the recommendations of the platform. Now that we've measured your AI visibility, now that we've seen, this sentiment, what can we do about it to improve it? How can we get your score from a 25 to above 80, right? How can we address this negative sentiment score? How can we, answer Heather May's question there of, how do I fix the mistakes or fix what's inaccurate? Right? I think that's going to be the future of AI visibility is, helping people improve their visibility scores.
But it sounds like it's the onus is on the individual or the business to make sure that we're checking it and that we're doing this work, because nobody's gonna pick up the phone and go, hey, by the way, I have a problem. I have a quick question though. Did you ever run Amazon's through your system? Did you see?
No, I did. That's a great idea. I'd love to run it on like a big name company like Amazon.
I'd love to know what its visibility score is. I mean, I asked that because does Amazon, does Coca-Cola, does McDonald's, do they need to care about their AI visibility score? I mean, nobody doesn't know those names, right? There's right. So I mean, I have a small business, Daisy. We all have small businesses, but what if it's a big business, right? Does that matter in the grand scheme of things? Is that important for a big business?
It's an excellent question. I have a perspective on that. Daisy, do you have anything?
Go ahead.
Okay.
Their company figured it out.
When I think about You got me all excited about your question, Shera. When I think about the future of AI search, right? It's no longer about search, it's about decisions,
Mhm.
right? And what I mean by that is if you take Amazon as an example, right? If Amazon is not visible to these AI platforms, right, in the future, um, decisions will be made by AI on behalf of humans. So, for example, I could tell AI, my goal is to do some Christmas shopping, and ChatGPT, go ahead and do the shopping for me. I have $100 budget. My grandma really likes socks, and my cousin is a fan of Pokemon. And here's all the context that I'm giving you. Now go ahead and do this. Finish all my Christmas shopping so that I could go spend time with my family and friends. To me, that's like, a very practical application of AI search, and then going into AI decision making. And so if Amazon, if a big name company like Amazon is not visible to these AI agents, then they're going to miss out on that opportunity.
Because again, the agent doesn't have context, doesn't have an experience,
Correct.
right? Doesn't know that you have. So that's I love that example. I think that speaks to everything that we can imagine in our day-to-day lives of having agentic agents working in our companies, working in our lives, setting up these agents that are going to do tasks for us, right? So if we don't instruct at an individual level, hey, next time you order toilet paper, make sure you order it on Amazon, or make sure you check Amazon and Target and Walmart because we want to know where the cheapest price is. Like,
Right.
It's not going to have that instruction to do that. So I think that's critical, right?
Yeah.
I think that's
So to Mario's point, because I'm helping some clients that have some e-commerce in their back end, right?
Mhm.
And e-commerce now, Shopify actually announced that they want to be part of those options or the shops that they represent, right? So within that, agentically, they're also building, like, you don't even have to leave ChatGPT or Gemini, especially ChatGPT right now. Everything is in that box once you set the recommendation. You can click for directions. You can make phone calls from there if you have the right, obviously, connectors and APIs that goes along with it. You can even shop in there now without even leaving ChatGPT, and it opens up on the right side a browser, the actual browser for the site itself to do your purchase. Now, to Mario's point, imagine, because Amazon has so many sellers, right? And if the sellers don't comply to what the Amazon needs agentically for their products to be picked, that's a big project for Amazon, right? Because now you have to inclusively train these sellers. I don't know what they do internally. This is just my guess. This is how my brain is thinking right now. And Mario, cut me off if I'm going out of line. Clearly, it's very important because now we're talking about, everybody's talking about agentic. The three of us are agentic natives to this, right? But the folks that are out there trying to build this, or personal, even as a personal learning to do this agentic work, they're connecting all these connectors or API, or I guess they're not API anymore, they're MCPs to be technically correct, the MCPs, to connect all these things. So it is not just for companies, big corporations have the bandwidth and have the budget for these to make things happen and for their brand or their website to be better. Whereas the smaller companies, it actually evens out a little bit of the playing field where you can still show up as a choice. And if you're going to do it now, because this thing is also not said it and done. Okay. This is consistent work. As AI trains its models and upgrades its models for new sets or what it's looking for, your brand has to adapt to those changes as well. So if your data was written 3 months ago, now before you're old, or your blogs or your content is old after 3 months. Now the recent research, and correct me, Mario, if I'm wrong, is now 2 months. And so, which means that if ChatGPT did its refresh of its data sets um, 3 months ago, or I mean, I had just recently done it, but your content hasn't changed from 3 months ago, then even though you were showing up before, you might not show up on that next training.
So this is crazy. And Mario, I don't want to cut you off, but I think we can segue this really quickly into our outside story in Daisy, because I think this was kind of the perfect tee up for that. I want to make sure we get it in because it's really interesting. Do you want to kick us off with this? Because I think you came up with a really good one this week and I was amazed.
All right. So this is the story about Blockbuster versus Netflix. Okay. So from the outside in 2004, I'm going to read this a little bit, guys. Let me make my browser a little bit bigger. So in 2004, Blockbuster had 60,000 employees, 9,000 stores, and a brand every household knew in America and recognized. If you had asked their leadership what AI, had it existed back then, what would it say about Blockbuster? They would have told you dominant, trusted, a place America goes to for entertainment. Okay. But here is what was happening in the outside actually, where customers were complaining about the late fees publicly, loudly, in the growing numbers. The gap between what Blockbuster believed their brand meant and what customers were experiencing and telling each other was widening every single quarter. They could not see it because they were measuring what they controlled, which was the store count, the membership numbers, internal metrics, new movies coming out. They were not measuring what the world was saying about them without their permission. Netflix was, with Reed Hastings, built his entire positioning on the one thing Blockbuster customers hated most. He did not have to outspend Blockbuster. He had to listen to what the outside was saying about Blockbuster. So he built around that. So in the age of AI, this is not slow. Decade-long shift. When a buyer asks ChatGPT, who's the best option in your category, AI answers in seconds. And it answers with accumulated signals of everything the world has said about you, not what you believe about yourself. Blockbuster had years before the gap became fatal. You have weeks about the digital shift that's going on right now. Not because leadership was blind, but because the organizational structure made a different answer almost impossible to act on, even when it was visible. Blockbuster did not fail because they did not know Netflix existed. They failed because what was embedded inside the organization made it possible to embody the change that the outside world was already demanding.
That is amazing. So I just want to check with our viewers, our listeners, does anybody doesn't know if anybody doesn't know what Blockbuster was? I mean, I know it's like 20 years ago, but again, phone book, it's possible. Okay, so I'm going to take this a little bit further because I did a little digging after you talked about it. And here's what a lot of people don't know about this Blockbuster story. In 2000, I think it was, Netflix already existed. So it's 26 years ago. I'm trying to think when did I do it? Remember, Netflix in the beginning, if we all remember, was you get a CD, a DVD in the mail, right? So like you talked about, like we didn't have to rewind the tape, which I was always bad about rewinding the tape. And you just mail it back and forth. You don't have to go to a store. So it already existed and was already starting to come. And actually, Netflix approached Blockbuster and offered to sell them Netflix for $50 million. Now, I would like to go back in time and go find the money and go do this deal, right? And Blockbuster allegedly laughed them out of the building and was like, you've got to be kidding. There's no way. And we're not going to do that. And when we think about it from an inside perspective now, the people in the room were foolish. They didn't know because of what was embedded inside Blockbuster's organization already. Their entire people, process, platform structure was already built around this physical model, real estate leases, inventory management, late fee revenue that was coming in. It accounted for 16% of their total income. That late fee was not just an irritating fact, it was a structural pillar of how the business funded itself. So when you are that embedded, excuse me, in a model that you can't see outside of that to see clearly and see an opportunity that exists, guess what happens? And any leader who raised concern about the digital shift were automatically overruled, not because leadership was blind, but because the organizational structure made it gave it a different answer that was almost impossible to act on. Blockbuster did not fail because they did not know Netflix existed. Again, they failed because what was embedded inside the organization made it impossible to embody the change in the outside world. And they were demanding it. And I think I just repeated exactly what you said. And I'm going to even say one other example of that. And I know we're close on time, but I think it's important. As a New Yorker, Heather, I will say this. I use cabs all the time. When Uber came around, and I've told the story 1,000 times, when Uber came around and I didn't have to go out in the snow, go out in the rain, stand on a corner with my hand out, trying to find a taxi, sometimes thinking maybe I had died and gone to hell and this was my punishment because I was standing there and no taxi came by and I didn't know what was happening. And the minute Uber came out, I could sit in my nice apartment and, dial up and get a car. The New York City Taxi Authority refused to listen. Same scenario, refused to pay attention to what was going on. And sadly, the people that owned taxi medallions in New York City went from having $1 million asset to something that was worthless, like this, right? So this is, I think, a really important thing that all of us need to think about. We talk all the time. We say we love AI. We think AI is great. AI good, not AI bad. And we need to pay attention to what's happening and how business is changing and what it's doing for us both personally and professionally. Because again, if I could go back in time, I'd try to figure out a way to get $50 million to buy Netflix in a second.
Yeah, right. And then,
Great.
Yeah, so huge, right? And clearly the practicality and the ease of receiving it in the mail, opening it up and putting it back in an envelope and just throwing it in the mail. And you had how many days? Like you literally had unlimited.
Something, or I don't know. You could pick your plan, I remember, or something. Again, mail, for those who don't know. That's stuff that
That's stuff that people actually deliver to a box.
don't joke. This I one day in our lifetime, they're gonna go, mail? What's mail? I'm just saying.
So Mario, what are your thoughts on that story? And clearly you're seeing that.
Yeah, I wasn't aware of the details of that story, so I'm hearing this for the first time, and it's gotten me to think, like, wow, if AI did exist back then, would we be, watching our shows on a streaming service called Blockbuster now instead of Netflix? Would everything be called Blockbuster now? Like, Netflix wouldn't even be a thing. So it's just gotten me to think about how just the course of history can change because of a tool like AI.
Yeah, absolutely. So a couple of things I want to make sure that people understand is that Mario and I are partners. So his tool actually is a tool that what I would recommend customers to get the score from. All right. So there's a distinction between what Mario's tool does and what I do in the AI disability world. So they're distinctly, we look at the same stuff, a lot of similar stuff, but his actually breaks it down more too. So here's how I look at it. You go to your doctor or urgent care and go, tell me what's wrong. Tell me about me. Tell me, do a test on me. That's what Mario's tool does. Like, it runs your score. It tells you where you're showing up, what's showing up nasty, where what prompts are being asked, all those type of stuff. And then once Mario then gives his recommendations on the fixes for what his tool does. But at the end of the day, there's also what I do is not just your score. I score you depending on what your brand is showing up as far as how your branding is done. Meaning that is your content, whereas Mario's tool looks at it visibly through the crawlers. I visibly have to go into your content and actually read your content. And is it answering the question? Is it laid out? Are the formats laid out the way Mario still will be able to crawl into, right? Number one is setting those up properly. Your hierarchies. Do you have enough FAQs that make you authority, or depending on the page that you have or the services you have, then I look at all those layers. Are your products being described properly, that AI will understand what the product is about, as to have the specs for the product, all those type of stuff, because those are things that in, if you have the all-inclusive answer on a product description and then answer questions about the products with an FAQ, those are big now, is that you've allowed AI to give you more, you've allowed AI to have all this information and go, oh, wait a minute, to Mario's point, if you were shopping, right, and it had all these layers and answers, then likely that from, they say Daisy's, kids store will be picked because that's what his nephew likes, right? And it answered those parameters that he put in there, then I'm one of the options. I'm one of the recommended product and brand for that particular filter that he has put in. And so my world is looking at all those layers of your website and making them visible, so Mario still can add those as a visibility, and you score higher. So I come in as basically the surgeon, really, that breaks it all, like breaks down all the reports that Mario gives me, right, from what it found about you. And then I fix those broken bones, or I fix, broken toes, or if you have, you're not on your regular regimen, like how do we assess your illness as a website? That's the analogy, the best thing I can come up with. And then from there, once we go, okay, I fixed you. You have a badge here. You have a badge there. You have, you have a Band-Aid here, whatever that is. Then over time, we make sure that we peel those badges, and then you're fixed up. What Mario's tool does is that how it looks at it is it called. So I then bring in Mario again to go, Mario, I need you to run. This is a monthly thing for my client. We need to run the reports for this client, so that number one, I can see that they're also starting to cite and their score is going up. What I cannot do, and what Mario's do was very valuable to me, is the alignment of our frameworks on how we get to tell people and how we recommend their visibility. Number one, that's a big alignment that we have. We're almost the same, except for one letter in my alphabet that wasn't a little off. But at the end of the day, as I see that the score is getting better, what I cannot do is, what he measures are the prompts they're showing up for, the citation sites they're showing up for. Those are the tools. I can manually do it, but he still works way faster. And then I use that tool in his report to go, okay, there's still a gap here somewhere in, let's say, a different on the product, or how, let's say, if you are getting a lot of negative reviews, how do I do brand management or reputation management for you? So those are core. So I offer a white glove service that actually digs into your site, whereas Mario gives you the visibility, and I use this tool to help the visibility go up.
So Heather, your answer is call Daisy.
Yeah.
That's your Daisy will fix it for you. I love the analogy. I love visual analogy. So like what was coming to me is basically, Mario, you're the CAT scan, the MRI, and the blood test, and Daisy, you're the surgeon. And then you got to go back for your checkup.
Yeah, the checkup. So you got to go back to Mario for your checkup.
Get your thing again. Robert Curtis. Wait a second. This is why I love when people make comments, because this is an old friend that I haven't seen in forever. So I had to put this up here. I'm not reading it yet, but okay. Hello, Rob Curtis. How exciting is that? We only have a couple of minutes left, and we definitely want to give our action items. And Mario, do you have one for us too today? We talked about this before. Do you want to share one?
Yeah. Yeah, I think what comes to mind is like, everybody here is doing the right thing by, learning new things, expanding our horizons, but really taking action on what you've learned, I think is maybe my biggest advice here, right? Don't just sit on like, this newfound knowledge, but actually, right, enter in your business name into ChatGPT, right? It takes literally 5 seconds to do, right? And that can be very insightful for you. Try a new tool that you've been sitting on, right? Try out. Many tools give free trials, right? And that's something that I like to do very regularly, is just test it out and see what that new tech has to offer. So
I love
yeah.
that. Very cool. Daisy, what's yours this week?
Well, the outside world is not. So Mary still shows the score today. So right now, I really want you to look internally within your organization. Are you, and then actually look at not just not from a brand or your product's perspective, but ask questions. Ask
Okay.
ChatGPT, what's it? Where am I showing up? Explore those questions to find out more about yourself.
Okay. So my question for people to ask their leadership is, what is one thing we say we stand for that our operations do not yet fully reflect? Ask leadership that. And that'll help understand where the AI score is bleeding, right? So Alan, I don't know if you're still on, you're gonna have your team, all your direct reports, do that search in Copilot or whatever you guys are using internally, and it doesn't matter, use them all. But ask that specific question. Get really clear on what is it that your company is representing, right? What is that image that you want to put out there? What does that company stand for? Every website has a mission and a vision and a value. Is that really what's out there and what's being seen? So we would love to hear from you. What did all this do for you? If you did our action items, what did you find? I want to thank you, Mario, for coming and talking to us and sharing what you do. I think it's really amazing how quick this stuff is changing and how we have to stay on top of it and make sure that we're doing the right thing. And glad to know you're not that security guard, prison guard. So if you all want to make sure you're not a prison guard, somewhere, now you got it.
All right. So now, Mario, we're going to put up something here about how they can get a hold of you and talk about that a little bit.
Oh, that's right. Sorry about that, Daisy. Yeah. If you all want, Mario, if it's okay if everyone reaches out to you, we can get your LinkedIn and your website here.
Absolutely.
Great.
Yeah,
great.
Happy to connect and help out where I can. So just feel free to reach out and scan the QR code. Yeah, happy to help.
And don't forget, always reach out to me or to Daisy anytime. We'd love to hear from you. We'd love to, if you'd like to be a guest on the Glass House, we would love that too. We'd love to hear what you're thinking. And Daisy, thank you as always. This is so much fun.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. We'll see you next week.
Bye-bye, everybody.